Mercy is perhaps one of the most controversial Overwatch characters of all time. Recently has been changed a crazy amount of times. In the past has been dramatically reworked multiple times, but there has never been a more frustratingly powerful and interesting time in Overwatch than when Mercy could 5-man resurrect. Now, when Overwatch first came out, Mercy had an ability that was Resurrect, similar to the Resurrect that you know of today, although instead of being on a cooldown and you rezzing one person, Mercy Resurrect would res as many people that were in a group that died together within a certain time frame, and it was an ultimate. Now remember, this was not 5v5, this was 6v6 without role lock, so it didn't really matter any combination of characters. If they died together, you could resurrect them all in one go. Fly in and resurrect all of them, which led to some of the most, frustrating if you were on the receiving end, or ecstatic if you were on the Mercy side of things when you got that huge res off. But when you paired it together with 2CP, a mode that got replaced in Overwatch 2 with push, 2CP was very frustrating trying to get that secondary objective, purely because the spawn advantage was so close to the defender's side. And in addition to that, there was no tick system back in the day. So instead of getting 1, 2, and 3 ticks eventually and having capped progress on those ticks, it just made it so you capped it all or you didn't get it at all, and it went all the way back to 0. So imagine you go to a point, you use a whole bunch of ultimates, you wipe a number of different players, maybe even kill the Mercy first, who knows? She comes out of spawn or she comes out and she resurrects her entire team, and they're back to full health. They get to start popping ults, and you already exhausted all your ultimates, all your resources, you're in bad positions, and yeah, this Mercy just basically completely dominated you with the press of a button. Now, this also led to a really interesting thing, especially when players started to learn how to play the game a bit more, is the hide and go to seek that happened with Mercy. Where Mercy would typically go and try to find a little hiding spot so that no one could find the Mercy, so that her team dies, she could come out and resurrect them all. It also led to some interesting situations where there would be calls to die on purpose because 2 of y'all died, and instead of the Mercy going in and resurrecting the 2, they wanted the huge res, and you would be rezzed at full HP, so it made more sense for you to actually die. So you played to die, and there was even a weirder level to this, where sometimes you knew the Mercy was going to resurrect, but you also didn't know where the Mercy was, so you kind of staggered out how you killed people. It's a little bit weird how that worked out, but it was very, very interesting. Now, both the Mercy side, getting that 5-man res was kind of their freaking holy grail, and if you were anyone that could one-shot in any way, denying the Mercy from getting that resurrect off was like the most relief that you could possibly freaking feel. Like, if you ever hooked a Mercy midair when you know that they were gonna resurrect her whole team and you would have lost the entire game off the back of it, you haven't freaking lived, and it was just crazy. Now, the other thing that could happen is on some maps like Temple of Anubis, the Mercy could hide literally in spawn and res through the wall, which is just like completely unfair. It even removes the hide and go to seek aspect of it and just allowed the Mercy to just not leave spawn when they had ultimate and resurrect their team. Definitely something that got patched out, but while it was active for quite a while, it was a very frustrating time where there was just no counterplay. I mean, the Mercy would just resurrect her team and you were just left there sad, and yeah, you just lost that game, unfortunately. Now, keep in mind, back in the day, it was also faster to generate an ultimate, so you would get this resurrect pretty consistently in a slow fight, and Mercies oftentimes would get these off every other fight, which is kind of crazy how every other fight could be a 5-man resurrection. And I don't really know if there's been anything in particular that has been talked about to return more than this. Like, the people that have lost to this definitely don't like this at all, but a lot of Mercy fans loved this a lot. I think it really comes down to the fact that when you get that 5-man res off, you get that healer hero fantasy where you're literally just freaking putting the entire game on your shoulders. It's your responsibility for winning a whole game based on that play that you pull off. And yeah, I could imagine why a lot of Mercies want it back, but from a balance point of view, it's kind of ridiculous. Although a bit less powerful now in a 5v5. Still, we don't want anything like this back, or at least I don't, but let me know, Mercy mains, down below. Do you want mass res back? But it's actually interesting because even though this was such a controversial ultimate and so powerful, it actually isn't the most powerful state of Mercy, which was the Valk change to Mercy, where Resurrect got put on a cooldown where you could res somebody, and in addition to that, you could pop your ultimate and res again. And ultimate was like Valk, like you know today, but you instantly got Resurrect back off of cooldown, and you would get Resurrect very, very fast now, so you could res multiple times. Now, the reason that this was more powerful and shifted the meta even more, because Mass Res Mercy didn't really see a lot of pro play, and Mercy was very popular in ranked, of course, but Valk Res Mercy was just rampant in pro play, rampant in ranked play. It basically just took over the entire game, and the difference was you could use that to maintain tempo. One of your teammates dies, you could just resurrect them right off the bat, kind of like you do now. You just get that tempo back, but then you would very quickly build up an ultimate, and that would allow you to typically get that tempo res. You res one person, pop your ult, res another person, and then as the fight progresses, by the time someone else dies, you res them too, and if someone else dies, you res them too. So it actually was better to provide a lot of res value in a staggered amount, and then you could also just play to the other strengths of Mercy, which is like utilizing your damage boost and utilizing Valk to help your team just be more effective and have more sustain. All in all, that was the most powerful we've seen Mercy, and in that meta, if you didn't have a Mercy, you were just more than likely to lose. And even though Mass Res was very strong, you still could find the Mercy, deny her from flying in midair, and of course, a big elephant in the room is the fact that dive was very, very strong back then, and because dive was so strong, all the dive characters were very good, Mercy was more pressured. Also, the average mechanical skill of every single person was less overall, so that meant that, you know, characters that required less mechanical skill got automatically more value, and I think like Mass Res Mercy would be a little bit easier to counter now, especially with the old school movement of Mercy. But as of September 19th, 2017, the Resurrect, the Mass Res change was removed from Mercy, never to return, and I do think that it was probably for the best. But let me know how you feel about this, and let me know what other hero you want me to break down the history of next in the comments down below.